A senior Iranian defense official is assassinated near the capital Tehran in a terrorist attack. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said the vehicle of the head of the Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, Mr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was targeted by terrorists. The Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said the act of cowardice shows the desperate warmongering of its perpetrators, adding that there are serious indications of an Israeli role in the assassination. Zarif also urged the international community, especially the EU, to end, quote, their shameful double standards and condemns the Iranian defense official's assassination. Between 2010 and 2012, 4 other Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated. Tehran and Western intelligence agencies have long put the blame on Israel, an accusation that was never rejected by officials of the Israeli regime. In tonight's debate, we'll be looking further into that issue. We're now joined by journalist and political analyst Elijah Magnier, who's joining us from Brussels. Also with us on tonight's debate, we have author and political analyst Mr. Saib Shath joining us from Belfast. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with Mr. Magnier in Brussels. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news, and who do you believe to be behind such acts against Iran?
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu said he has reached several achievements this week. He can't share all the details with us. That is typical of this particular Israeli Prime Minister, to show off and disregard the deniability previously adopted by Israeli MPs for many years, when they carry out target killing or assassination abroad. Netanyahu also, he is under domestic scrutiny with a very strong possibility to face the Court of Justice. He's accused not only of corruption but also bribery, particularly related to the submarine and missile purchase that is around $2 billion. And this is where the Israeli Minister of Defense, Benny Gantz, accuse him and form a committee. So he has all the interest to escape toward a possible war or a battle or any act similar to the one he has committed today. And also Israel is aware that Iran is not in a position to retaliate with a full all-out war when the attack is not that big to deserve to put the whole Middle East into a stage of war. That, particularly when the assassination of the Iranian professor today won't change much in Iran's nuclear or ballistic missile program. This is why Israel may find the audacity not only to carry out the target assassination, but also to hit more targets in Iran in the future, or carry out more assassination, knowingly that Tehran is aware that President Trump is eager to do something before he leaves office on the 20th of January 2021. So yes, Israel is trying to drag Iran and the Middle East into direct confrontation. And we know that the Americans leaked the information of the arrival of the US B-52 toward the Middle East, and the US fleet in the Mediterranean that is ready. And there is a general support from many Gulf countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, that are ready to support and finance Israel, particularly with the latest normalization with Israel. So we do not exclude that the meeting between Netanyahu and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia, on the Red Sea, beginning of this week, was not a normalization of the relationship that already exists since many years, but it has not been announced. But it was under the table coordination and informative military hit against Iran.
Saib Shath, your thoughts on the issue? What are the motives behind carrying out such acts of terrorism?
From the day one that the West planted the Zionist entity in the heart of historical Palestine, and the Zionist entity carries out targeted killings and assassination mainly against Arab and Muslim scientists. We witnessed that in Egypt in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The same thing goes in Syria and Iraq. Iran from the 70s, 1979 onwards. They want to make sure these countries will stay undeveloped, underdeveloped, and they are backwards, and they cannot industrialize themselves, and they cannot catch up with the Western progress. And they cannot even be sufficient in fulfilling the needs of their own population or the needs of defending their country. So because they are in the heart of the world in the Middle East, their wealth and their geopolitical areas is controlled by the Zionist entity and the West. This is the target, and Israel to stay supreme. We witnessed from 1979 the Iranian elites and scientists being targeted from after the break of the revolution. Since Shah of Iran was a Western puppet, they needed him and they didn't target him. But since the Iranian become sovereign over their decision after the Islamic revolution in Iran, and Iran becomes targeted, becomes sanctioned, and become besieged to destabilize the revolution and to loot after that the wealth. This is the target. Your guest touched on issues which I want to expand a little bit on here. There was a meeting between the Zionists and the Saudis and the Americans in Saudi Arabia just shortly, and we want to see these three developments, which indicates to more actions against Iran. The first one was by the Zionist media itself, a Walla newspaper, which is close to the intelligence apparatus in there. It's confirmed there was instructions issued to the army leadership to be prepared and on a standby in anticipation of any development or offensive to be launched against Iran. This is a few days ago. The second one, the U.S. military command, as your guest said, dispatched the B-52 bomber equipped with giant bombs that can penetrate bunkers to destroy nuclear facilities within deep in the mountains, like they say fruits in Iran. The third point, which is their meeting in the Red Sea between Pompeo and bin Salman and the Zionist Prime Minister Netanyahu, when they wanted to tackle the issue of Iran. They wanted to make sure there is an action planned against Iran and gonna be taken in place, and they want to abort any attempts by President-elect Joe Biden to rejoin the Iran nuclear agreements. The last point I want to make in here, the fingerprint of the attack on Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was the professor shows the advanced, capable, sophisticated intelligence agency who can trigger an explosion and then target the man with fire to make sure he will be gunned down, die by the explosion, or gunned down. This is a sophisticated operation. It shows all the fingerprints and the signs of the Zionist entity or sophisticated intelligence agency.
Mr. Magnier, having in mind the Israeli threats in the past, what's also alarming here in this situation is that just recently Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was mentioned in a video report by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's not too difficult to connect the dots here, is it?
Absolutely. It is quite obvious, particularly when we see also President Trump retweeting a former Mossad officer who spoke about the assassination of Professor Mohsen Fakhrizadeh and confirming that he was on the Mossad target list since quite some time. And as your guest rightly said, the professor was responsible for the development of nuclear and ballistic missiles. The team that attacked was highly professional, planned. They put a car bomb to stop the driver, and that exploded a few meters ahead. And then a team of attackers decided to attack because they are trained to carry out such an assassination against a target. And it is highly possible the coordination with foreign intelligence services to rehearse this attack. So, however, the removal of one person never stopped a country from carrying out its objective. On the contrary, the assassination of a nuclear scientist and the 4 nuclear scientists before only give more incentive for Iran to motivate it and increase its nuclear enrichment program and develop missiles that reach a distance beyond the 2,000 kilometers. And we also have to bear in mind that President Trump has a personal vendetta against Iran. Trump tried to contact Iran 8 times and failed. He was waiting by the phone and the Iranians never called him up. He advised Iran to make a deal weeks before the election to add it to his achievement and increase his chances to win a second term. But because he didn't win, Trump would like to make sure, as your guest said, Trump wants the President-elect Joe Biden to be unable to abide by the nuclear deal signed by President Obama in 2015, and that he shredded and want to put obstacles in front of any attempt by Biden administration to return to the deal by pushing Iran to retaliate and leave office in the midst of a possible war in case Iran hit back Israel or hit US bases in the Middle East. Trump and Israel and Saudi Arabia want to guarantee the no return to the nuclear deal. They want to eliminate the Iran voice for the right of the Palestinians, for the right of the axis of the resistance to exist, for the right of people to live without the US dominance, imperialism in the region. However, it's very difficult to drag Iran into a war face to face unless there is real bombing of its nuclear sites by a foreign force. Iran is expected to exert control and avoid being dragged to a battlefield where the timing and the terms are dictated by the enemies. So we have to wait and see. I don't think Iran would be just impulsive, reactive in this case.
Saab Shah Commander Hossein Dehghan, a military advisor to Iranian leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has accused Israel of killing the Iranian nuclear scientists to try to provoke a war. He said, quote, "In the last days of the political life of their ally Donald Trump, the Zionists seek to intensify pressure on Iran to create a full-blown war." Do you see a relation there, Trump, Netanyahu, and the terrorist attack in Iran earlier today?
Yes, I see the relation very clearly myself, especially the professor was a prominent scientist who was leader in his research and innovation of defense industry for Iran. And we seen how Iran reacted to the assassination of the late General, Lieutenant General Soleimani, when they attacked Ain al-Assad and other American bases in Iraq, and the Americans couldn't retaliate. And later on, we discovered from American media and American even members of the Democratic Party said that most of the soldiers, which they said they weren't injuries, all of them have head injuries, and most of them, you know, like damaged, totally damaged, damaged. And the other point in here, the Americans will want Israel to attack. They want the Saudis to be involved in like an attrition war against Iran. The Americans, from the lesson which they've been learned from the attack of Ain al-Assad, they didn't mobilize that a great force to attack Iran. They just want to pressurize Iran, and they want to show America is still in a fighting mood, but they cannot do it. We witnessed one rocket the Houthis movement launched a couple of days ago, which flies low, and no radars, no sophisticated weaponry the Americans have in Saudi Arabia even spotted that one rocket which destroyed the Aramco's station fired by the Houthis, which is Quds 2. This is compared to the Iranian sophisticated weaponry is nothing. So they knew what they are facing. They cannot launch a war in Iran, but they are playing dirty games in there. They just want to stabilize the region. They want to make sure things are very bad to the President-elect Biden, and he cannot rejoin the Iranian nuclear deal because they want to create a further animosity with the Democrats now, so they cannot sit with the Iranian and reschedule the American rejoining of the nuclear deal. This is what the Americans and the Israelis do, and the Saudi is desperate to do that because they know the next administration will be targeting their human rights record, their involvement in the war in Yemen, and a lot of other things.
Elijah McNear, the U.S., the Saudis, the Israelis, they've been very open and vocal about not wanting Iran's nuclear energy program to excel. Why do you think they are threatened by Iran's progress?
Because since 1979, President Carter imposed sanctions on Iran because Iran refused to submit, because Iran is not accepting the U.S. dominance over the Middle East and over Iran itself, because Iran has allies in the region that think in the same way. Iran supports the Palestinian cause, support the freedom of the Lebanese, support the non-regime change in Syria, support the unity of Iraq, while Biden and President Trump wanted to divide the country. I don't think there is a difference between Trump and Biden, at the exception of Biden is a more expert and more diplomat than Trump. But both are considering Iran as an enemy. Hillary Clinton said it clearly, and they consider Iran as an enemy because Iran is causing trouble to Israel. Iran is supporting the Palestinians in their cause. The Palestinians want the right to return to their land. They want their territory back. They don't want to be under the dominance of the Israelis. They want their claim that has been taken since 1947, and they don't want the Americans to dominate an area that is 10,000 kilometers away from the United States of America. This is why Iran is an enemy. And in Iran is an enemy because in Iran there are democratic elections in the country, while in any other Arab state, and particularly Gulf country, it is ruled by a monarchy. There are no democratic elections. But that is secondary. The main problem of Iran is support to the Palestinian state. If Iran stops support to Palestine, then all the problems with Iran will be solved. However, Iran has written in its constitution the support of all oppressed people in the world, above all the Palestinian cause. It cannot violate its own commitment. It's a commitment that has been taken upon itself to support the right cause of all the population. And that is the main problem of Iran. And this is why they want Iran a shark without teeth.
So, Amshad, let's talk about another matter that has been brought up a lot today, and that's the issue of the lack of condemnation. Iran's foreign minister, Zarif, he urged the international community, especially the EU, to end, quote, their shameful double standards and condemn the Iranian defense official's assassination. Why is there such hypocrisy in this case? And are you surprised by the lack of condemnation and lack of outrage?
No, I'm not surprised. And I think some of the Western intelligence agencies were helping the Mossad at some stages in achieving such targeted killings. Since Iran today is inherited the position which Nasser of Egypt, the revolutionary leader of Egypt in the 60s, found himself in, anti-imperialist, leading the region anti-imperialist campaign. So today, the Iranian revolution is carrying on the same agenda which is Egypt, revolutionary Egypt in the 60s used to do, leading a leading figure in third world countries against imperialism and against the oppressor and supporting the oppressed people. This is what Iran's today, as your guest said himself, I agree 100%. And when Iran finds itself behind the Palestinian and supporting the Palestinian, this is, for the Zionist entity, is disturbing. Since they launched their wars from 1948 till the invasion of Lebanon in 1982 and follows, against anybody supporting the Palestinians or the Palestinian movements. The Arab Springs, or what they call it Arab Springs, was targeted against countries which supported Palestine. Rightly, Iran today finds itself behind the Palestinian cause, behind Hezbollah, and the leading figure and the leading country, actually, of the resistant camp, which stands against the imperialism and its function state, the Zionist entity Israel. And all the Arab reactionary regimes, which are the satellites of the Zionist entity and the Americans' imperialism. So this is why Iran is targeted, and this is why you see the Western countries who planted the Zionist entity in there to weaken the region and to help the West in controlling these ex-colonies and suck their wealth and make sure they are open market to its own goods. They want this situation to continue, these countries to be weaker. When they assassinate Iranian scientists, it means to them that will put Iran back in a backward position.
One last question for both of our guests. Elijah Magnier, what should Iran's response be? Different viewpoints suggest these terrorist acts will only make Iran more adamant in confronting its antagonists.
I think Iran should continue in its nuclear program, should continue its enrichment and to raise the percentage and to go toward full nuclear cycle without the necessity to make a bomb. But that will make Iran stronger. I think Iran should continue with its missile program to go beyond the 2,000 and reach the 5,000 kilometers. And I think Iran should not retaliate now and give Trump the possibility to have his little war in the last few weeks in power.
Okay, Saab Shath, same question for you. What should Iran's response be?
Iran's retaliation should be in industrialize more, in educating more, in furthering the industries, in making the life of their own people more secure, and in furthering the security and defense industry. This way Iran will win. And that's where we see the Americans couldn't revenge against the attacks of the Iranian missiles in Iran.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen. That's all the time we have for tonight's debate. Allow me to thank my guest, journalist and political analyst Elijah Magnier, joining us from Brussels. Also thanks to author and political analyst Saab Shath, speaking to us from Belfast. Also, a special thanks to you, our viewers, for staying with us on tonight's debate. Goodbye, everybody.